one, take advantage of the uh, favorable regulatory framework that is coming up in the GCC region. I think there are very few times in life where you get an opportunity to do that. And second thing is, just kind of do a lot of reading. Nowadays a lot of resources are available out there, so this tokenomics paper will help. And I think if they design, this is really like the analogy people do is comparing it to where we were in 1995, 1996 with the launch of internet. I think this is at the cusp of that. We are looking at a new internet now. So if people do the reading, I think they can really take advantage of that, and be a part of this new internet which is starting now.
To start us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Borderless Capital?
Sure. So, I have been in the blockchain space now since 2016-17. And so at Borderless, I'm a partner in the fund, focused on our Algorand flagship fund. And at Borderless, overall, we have over $1 billion across all our funds under AUM. So I manage the flagship fund, which is the Algorand Focus Fund, looking at the overall investment process end to end.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. You are obviously Borderless Capital is a blockchain VC, so you guys are focused on blockchain projects and that area in particular. Can you talk to me a little bit about the firm's selection process and how you go about searching for interesting blockchain projects?
Sure, happy to. So it'll be good if I give a little kind of background about Borderless, and I think that will help kind of understand the selection process in a bit more detail, because actually we are quite different from some of the other funds out there. So the fund was started by our two founders, Arul and David, who together were one of the largest check in Algorand, and we really believed in the kind of technical superiority of Algorand. So they came together, and the idea was, instead of doing a cross-chain fund, which I think most of the funds, if you see, they are like cross-chain funds, let's actually go deep into an ecosystem, and instead of growing horizontal, go vertical. So instead of breadth, look at depth. And so that's how Borderless was born in 2019. Before Borderless, I was in the US. I was doing both direct and indirect investments into funds, directly into companies. Then I came back to India, which is my home country, in 2016. I was the founding member of an early stage VC fund here called Unicorn India Ventures. We did a lot of Web2 investments from Fund 1, did around 22 investments. Then we launched Fund 2. And one of the Fund 1 investments is now the 100th unicorn of India, called Open Neobank, which is like one of the largest neobanks in India now. That single investment returned almost, like thrice our entire fund. And in that investment, Tiger Global, I remember, was leading one of their Series B rounds, and I saw like one of the clauses in there was, if the company does an ICO. So at that time, I knew that this thing is going to kick off. And I've been, as I said earlier, I've been in the blockchain space since 2016, 17, buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. So I was also one of the early advisors to Woodstock, the Woodstock Fund, which was kind of the first VC fund to start out of India, and now they have relocated to Dubai. So know the founders well. I'm also an LP there. And so then in 2019, I got the opportunity. I decided, hey, let's move from Web to Unicorn was starting their fund too, and I moved to Borderless and full time into a Borderless role. So I kind of joined Borderless, primarily focused on the flagship Algorand fund, which is what David and Arul came together. They started, and so coming back to the main question, the selection process. For us, we have more of an ecosystem view. Now, what's very different in Algorand as compared to Solana, as compared to DOT, some of the other L1 ecosystems, is a lot of those ecosystems, they operate more on a grant model. Where you get a grant, you go and build something, and for a lot of those projects, if you see, the house is not in order. People are randomly building stuff, and it's kind of a bit chaotic. What we did in Algo is we followed a very disciplined VC approach. So within Algorand, there are three entities. You have the Algorand Inc., where all the tech development happens. You have the foundation, which takes care of the governance, grants, and then we were the first and the largest VC kind of blockchain VC on Algorand. And all these three entities are independent. We take independent investment decisions, but we work very closely with the other two, so that gives us a lot of firepower. We are able to bring in marketing capabilities from Inc. and the foundation. We are able to bring in the product development tech capabilities from the Algorand Inc. We are able to help them get developer support, governance support from foundation. So I think that gives us a lot of firepower. So when we select projects, the lens we apply is how this will help build the ecosystem, because we are kind of actually giving birth to the ecosystem from scratch. So I know that was a bit long-winded, but I hope that that gives better understanding. And so what we did is we built what are called as the money blocks on Algorand ecosystem. So, for example, on the DEX side, which is the AMM side, we are the lead investors in four of the leading DEXs on Algo: Tinyman, HumbleFi, Pact, and Algo DEX. So the first three are more AMMs. The third is a limit order book. We are also the lead investors in two of the key lending borrow protocols, Folks.finance and AlgoFi. Then we led the round in Venue One, which is more of a prediction markets like Augur or Poly markets on Algo. And then on the NFT side, which is very interesting, we also led investments in five of the key NFT marketplaces, which are going to be the key kind of opens or readables on Algorand. So we built this entire ecosystem. A lot of times what we did is we actually got the idea, we identified a team, brought the team together, did a pre-seed investments, and worked very closely with the project from there. So I think, to sum it up, I think what's very different about us from a lot of the other funds is we take more of an ecosystem approach. So of course, like any other VC would, right? Is the project scalable? How big is the opportunity? What is the background of the team? One thing very important for us is the team a crypto native team, or is it more of a web 2 team trying to do web 3 for the first time? If it is that way, then one of the things we like to do is help them get a crypto native co-founder or a founding member in the team. And one key element that we look at is how this will be complementary to the existing overall ecosystem and to our portfolio.
Yeah, that's incredible. Obviously, what you're doing is by focusing on a specific blockchain network that's very different to others. You kind of touched on this a little bit in your answer, but I wanted further clarification as to what attracted you to the Algorand ecosystem as opposed to other blockchain networks and infrastructures.
Sure. So there are some unique capabilities on Algo, which is why we are very bullish on Algo. We feel that right now it is one of the most underpriced layer ones out there. So specifically, one, the speed. It is one of the fastest kind of chains out there. More than if you see the TPS, it is one of the fastest out there. If you see the finality, one key difference is that every transaction in Algo reaches finality, and after that it can never be forked. Any other EVM compatible chain, if you take, they can be forked. So especially for NFTs, right? If you are an artist, if you launch your NFT in BSC, which is basically like a fork of ETH, tomorrow it can again be forked, and you can have a version of your NFT on another chain. So Algorand, by definition, once the transaction is finalized, it can never be forked. Then the third is there are a lot of layer one primitives which make very interesting use cases for some of the most commonly used applications like NFTs. For example, you have atomic swaps. Even in DEXs, you have atomic swaps, which means that you can transfer one asset to another asset without trusting a smart contract or a third party. Then you have like different types of auctions. You have, if you see the kind of roadmap of Algorand, what is coming, you have co-chains, you have a lot of interesting things coming in layer one, which really I think makes it very easy and makes the kind of it gives a lot of faith to the community to trust what is being built. So it's very difficult to do rug pulls and all. And fourth, very critical, it's a very carbon negative chain. So the foundation, actually Algorand Foundation, they have partnered with one of our portfolio companies, Climate Trade, where every transaction which is done on the chain, it actually helps remove carbon from the atmosphere. So we are not talking about being carbon neutral. We are talking about carbon negative, which means that every transaction actually removes carbon from the atmosphere. And that, if you see, attracts a lot of artists, especially from NFTs, music artists. So music is very big in Algo. We have Napsters, we have Opulus. There are different use cases, and we can talk about it in a bit. But this attracts a lot of artists onto Algo, and we are seeing that. We are seeing a lot of artists organically come and build, kind of DAOs, community on projects on Algorand.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, you touched on those five categories of NFTs, or five marketplaces for NFTs that you guys are currently looking on. I wanted to touch base with you on that and explore that a little further. What exactly are those marketplaces that you guys are looking at, and which one do you think has the most potential to sort of disrupt the status quo?
Sure. So we backed. One of the first ones we backed was Aorist. So Aorist is actually like a tier 1 marketplace. Artists like Rafael Nadal, who built like Machine Hallucinations. He launched his art in there, and so that is kind of at a very high end art, which is released there. And they actually did a merger with another very strong marketplace called AB2 Gallery. They bought AB2 Gallery. So what the beauty about that is, they are trying to build, target two types of customers through that acquisition. High end art through Aorist, and then also target like medium end art, depending upon the kind and different customer base through AB2 Gallery. Then we have another very interesting ones, just to give you a kind of flavor how these things are different. We have another one called Kin DAO. What they are trying to do is they'll create a DAO of all the kind of different NFT marketplaces. So that allows even common use, because a lot of times when you get art, common users are not able to participate in the art. So through this, they will allow common users to come and participate in the DAO, and they'll be working with all of these NFT different marketplaces to create an indexer, where through you can actually identify, okay, which NFT is sitting on which of the different marketplaces, and you can compare the features and so on, which I think is very rare in any ecosystem. Then the third one is, so these are all like digital arts. There is one called Artery, which they have now working with Sotheby's, Christie's, and they were originally doing it on ETH, where they were creating kind of provenance for each of the art piece to whom it belongs. So if you won't believe it, like when we were talking to them, even still museums have this provenance in like literally in like analog form in books and all. Okay, who did this art belong to? And it's crazy. And the book can get lost, pages can get lost. So they were pushing it all to Ethereum, but Ethereum just wasn't viable. It was too costly, and the fees was too high, taking a lot of time, being able to fork and all that. So they moved to Algo, and they built this entire provenance. And what they are doing is they are tokenizing again high end kind of physical real world art. They are bringing that on the chain, and then they will tokenize it. Through that, what the challenge that happens is, in today's art world, especially for high end art, easily it can be like we are talking about 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, and your liquidity is locked there. So through that, what you can do is you can take 5 million and tokenize that 5 million and give that partial ownership to others. Through that, you generate 5 million of liquidity, using which you can go and invest in some other art piece. They are doing that. We have another one called Arium Chain, which is more working on doing 3D scanning of sculpture. So this is all about art. Now we are moving to sculpture. So they work with like leading museums in Italy, doing a 3D scan of all these sculptures. And if you buy, the idea there is, you have this micro NFTs, where if you buy each NFT, you get one small low resolution pic. If you accumulate a lot of NFTs, the resolution keeps increasing. And once you have if you have all the NFTs, then you can go as close at 0.02 millimeter. So the resolution is so high. So they are, it's a different concept. And then we have another one called Art Square. What they are doing is they are again tokenizing. So you can bring like an art piece, you can easily tokenize it, create a secondary market. So I think with that we have created an entire kind of ecosystem of physical art, digital art, high end art, kind of medium end art, for crypto native people, non crypto native, for sculptures, and even like a DAO approach. So we are very excited about all of those.
That's incredible. Yeah, so many different use cases. and still within the same field. So that's really cool to see. You talked a lot about Algorand and its sort of prowess as a blockchain network. They did attend Agora's GBC Congress prior, as
Yeah.
did you. How did you feel the level of the projects were at in the GCC, and what did you think about the blockchain ecosystem in the UAE?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a big fan. So I've been coming to UAV for a while. Really enjoy like traveling there, being there. Specifically, what is very exciting is especially with the current kind of the regulatory framework which they have put out. That I think definitely gives them a leg up in all in the entire region. So specifically, one of our portfolio companies called Xfinite, which is kind of one of the leading companies, they I think were one of the first 20 projects which got that license. And with that, what they are also doing is they are partnering with the government to do like a blockchain accelerator with the UAE government to do a blockchain accelerator. And because they are very deep in algo, that I think Algorand will also support a lot of those projects will be built on algo. So I think very forward thinking in terms of having the regulatory framework in there. I also met with kind of a lot of key interesting people there, and almost they have a very good understanding of how Web3 has the potential to disrupt. Now in every tech, you can have pros and cons. Like even for example, when the car was invented, you can use it in a good way, you can also use it in a bad way. Same thing with the gun, you can use it in a good way, for your self defense, to make sure that nobody robs you, but also you can go and do like you can use it in a bad way. So same thing with Web3, I think. But I think what they are trying to do is by having that regulatory framework, make sure that the technology is adopted in the right way. I think the other thing that was very interesting for me to see is how it has become kind of a hub now for not only from a lot of founders from India, but from Europe, US, who are coming there, who have set up a base there and are building from there. So it looks like, increasingly a lot of funds that I spoke to, there are a few like New Tribe Capital is there. I spoke to Cypher, I spoke to a few others, but they are also seeing a lot of developers come and kind of continuously build there. So we have 2-3 portfolio companies there as well that we keep speaking to. So we are very excited about the region. I think long way to go. And I think other regions, especially like the strides they took in setting up the regulatory framework, forward thinking is, I think other regions should look at them and try to implement it.
Sure, sure. Things are looking really optimistic in the region here, and all blockchain advocates are really on their toes to see what the region's going to come up with next and how it's going to transform into this blockchain hub. So there's a lot of optimism there, in complete contrast to the market right now, the bear
Yeah.
market that we're in. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, so for blockchain projects, startups, investors, what piece of advice would you give them to sort of soldier through the bear market?
Yeah. So very simple, in times like these, cash is king. That's the advice. And the idea is that startups don't run out of revenue, they run out of cash. So we have seen startups close, like in my earlier kind of investing roles as well. And that doesn't happen because they don't have contracts signed or they don't have a pipeline of revenue. That happens because they don't have money in the bank and they are not able to repay their debt, their employees give out salaries and all that. So what one of the things which we are focusing now is a lot on portfolio management. We are working with all of our companies to make sure that they conserve cash, they increase the runway. So the advice would be, elaborating the kind of point a little bit. I think the aim should be that conserve your cash, reduce your burn, make sure you have enough monies to run for the next 12 to 18 months, ideally 18 months. If there was some expenditure which you think you can let go for now, let it go for now. For startups that just raised money, I think they were in a good spot, they did that. But I think this cycle impact, there were very few who were not impacted in any way. For people who just raised the monies before the downturn, I think now when they go to raise cash, it is difficult. For people who are raising the monies, they are seeing a slowdown. But this advice applies to everyone. I think this there will be a shakeup. There will be some rationalize. We won't see like pre-seed or seed rounds of 100 million and all. I think that was not rational. That was exuberance which was happening. So it will become more rational. The good projects will still flourish. Historically, if you see, some of the best companies in the world have been started in a downturn. So there will be plenty of opportunities. So if people just have patience, they really apply themselves. I think anybody who has been in this space for a long time, they know this ups and down cycle. So it's a cycle. It will pass. I think already we were seeing, like a couple of days ago, Bitcoin kind of rebounds a bit. So I think it is testing the waters, and who knows, like, while we are so hope for the best, prepare for the worst. While still we are thinking what will happen 6 months, 12 months down the line. By next month, actually things might start looking much better.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for that answer, and thank you for the bunch of answers that you've provided throughout this interview. I'm sure our readers are going to benefit from it a lot. I have no more questions for you, but I would like to give you some room if you would like any to convey any closing thoughts. Uh, please let me know, and you can do that now.
Sure. No, like I'm very a big proponent of Web3. I think so. From Borderless, what we have done is just to take a step back. So we there are two ecosystems we are very deep in. Algorand, which I'm closely involved. The other ecosystem is Helium, where we did like a staking and mining fund as well. We are doing a fund too as well, and then we do some proprietary investments. Kind of which is our own from the family office side as well. One of the things which we published was one of my colleagues, Zach. He published a detailed paper on tokenomics. So I would highly encourage like readers to go and read that paper. It gives a very good description on how the token distribution should be, what should be the vesting schedule, governance schedule. I think like two closing points I would like to say is one, take advantage of the favorable regulatory framework that is coming up in the GCC region. I think there are very few times in life where you get an opportunity to do that. And second thing is, just kind of do a lot of reading. Nowadays, a lot of resources are available out there. So this tokenomics paper will help. And I think if they design, the like this is really like what people the analogy people do is comparing it to where we were in 1995 1996 with the launch of internet. I think this is at the cusp of that. We are looking at a new internet now. So if people do the reading, I think they can really take advantage of that, and be a part of this new internet which is starting now.
For sure, I agree. Thank you so much for this answer again, and thank you for the time that you've given me, Amit. It was a pleasure speaking to you on this interview.